Hello. I'd like to talk about the curse of Tecumseh and how it will affect President-elect Joe Biden. But first we need to talk about a little history. So, the curse of Tecumseh originated a long time ago in the early 1800s. So, in the early 1800s, Tecumseh and his brother Tenskwatawa were going from Wisconsin to Florida and back, all the way in between, trying to recruit and unify the Native Americans of the time. There was a general, William Harrison, who basically swindled the Native Americans into giving up most of their land through treaties, and when the Native Americans realized just how bad of a deal they got, they were scorned and heartbroken. There was a war between the Native Americans and William Harrison, and this war was led by their chief, Tecumseh. So Tecumseh goes down as saying, and I quote, "Will we let ourselves be destroyed in our own turn without a struggle, to give up our homes, our country bequeathed to us by the Great Spirit, the graves of our dead, and everything dear and sacred to us? I know you will cry with me, never, never." So in this war, Tecumseh dies. He was shot and killed. And his brother was scorned as well. His brother goes to say, and we don't know if this is like a historical record of him saying or just speculative that he said this, but I'll throw the quote up. It says, "Harrison will die, I tell you, and after him every great chief chosen every 20 years thereafter will die, and when each one dies, let everyone remember the death of my people." So a few years after this, William Harrison goes on to be elected president in 1840. On March 4th, he is giving his inaugural address at the Capitol in a particularly cold day. So to show his manliness, he decides to forgo wearing gloves and a coat during his 105-minute inaugural address. Well, because of this, shortly after, he becomes sick, develops into pneumonia, and a month later, he passes away in his first month as president. So then 20 years after William Harrison became president, Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860. Abraham Lincoln was then assassinated just after the start of his second term in 1865 by the assassin John Wilkes Booth. Then in 1880, James A. Garfield won the election, and he was later killed in a train station's waiting room in Washington. William McKinley was re-elected in 1900. After giving a speech at an exposition in Buffalo, he was shot while shaking hands with one of his supporters. He died a week later of the complications. In 1920, Warren G. Harding was elected, but just in 1923, a few short years later, he died of a stroke or a heart attack, and it had long been suspected that his wife had poisoned him. Franklin D. Roosevelt won the 1940 election, making it his third term, but then right after his fourth term started in 1945, he died of a massive cerebral hemorrhage. John F. Kennedy was elected in 1960, but then just a few short years later in 1963 was killed by his assassin Lee Harvey Oswald. But then in 1980, Ronald Reagan won the election, and he was shot in the chest, but the bullet missed his heart by mere inches, so he somehow managed to survive and cheat the Grim Reaper. President George W. Bush was elected in the year 2000. In the year 2005, he was giving a speech in the country of Georgia, the capital Tbilisi, when an assailant threw a Soviet-made hand grenade that was wrapped in a red handkerchief at the president, and it landed about 61 feet away. The hand grenade failed to detonate even though it was live and the pin had been pulled, but I'm not sure why it didn't go off. Maybe it was something to do with the red handkerchief being wrapped around it. Is the curse of Tecumseh real? Who knows? Maybe it's just speculation, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I like to think so because look at the evidence. We have 8 presidents who have died in office, Of the 8, only one has died that was not elected on a year ending in 0, and that was Zachary Taylor, who died in 1850, and he actually died of some kind of food poisoning. So whether the curse is real or not, who knows? But if you enjoyed this video, leave me a like, comment below, and it'll be an interesting discussion to say the least.